Hello, my miracles. It is another Coffee and Crime, episode 15. So grab your coffee. I have hot coffee once again. It's a little bit chilly out. That's hot. And we're going to talk some crime. Aileen Wuornos was born Aileen Carol Pittman on February 29th, 1956 in Troy, Michigan, to parents Diane Wuornos and Leo Pittman. Aileen's father had been diagnosed with schizophrenia and was convicted of sex crimes against children. He would hang himself while in prison in 1969. In 1960, Aileen's mother abandoned 4-year-old Aileen and her brother, leaving them with their maternal grandparents, Lori and Britta Wuornos, who would legally adopt Aileen and her brother. By the age of 11, Aileen began engaging in sexual activities in exchange for cigarettes, drugs, and food. Later, Aileen stated that her alcoholic grandfather sexually assaulted and beaten her when she was a child. In 1970, Aileen, at the age of 14, became pregnant. The pregnancy was due to a rape by an accomplice of her grandfather. Aileen gave birth to a boy at a home for unwed mothers on March 23, 1971. Her child was put up for adoption. When Aileen turned 15, her grandfather threw her out of the house. At this time, Aileen began supporting herself by prostitution. She had also begun living in the woods near her old home. From the age of 18 and on, Aileen was arrested for various crimes, including assaults, DUI, forgery, armed robbery, and car theft. In the spring of 1986, Aileen had met Tyria Moore, a hotel maid, at a Daytona gay bar. Shortly after they met, Aileen and Tyria moved in together. Aileen supported both herself and Tyria with her earnings as a prostitute. Between 1989 and 1990, Aileen murdered 7 men. Richard Mallory, age 51, David Spears, age 43, Charles Karksadan, age 40, Peter Sims, age 65, Troy Burris, age 50, Charles Humphrey, age 56, Walter Antonio, age 62. All men were shot with a .22 caliber pistol. On July 4th, 1990, Aileen and Tyria were seen abandoning victim Peter Sims' car. Aileen had left her palm print on the interior door handle of the car, and since Aileen had been previously arrested, her fingerprints were on file. So on January 9th, 1991, Aileen was arrested at the Last Resort Biker Bar in Florida. Police located Tyria the next day in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and she, with the police, returned to Florida. Under the guidance of the police, Tyria made numerous calls to Aileen in prison, pleading for Aileen to clear Tyria's name. So on January 16, 1991, Aileen confessed to the murders. She stated that all of the murdered men had tried to rape her and she had killed them all in self-defense. A year later, in 1992, Aileen went to trial for the murder of Richard Mallory. On January 27, 1992, Aileen was convicted of Richard Mallory's murder with the help of Tyria Moore's testimony. Psychiatrists at the trial testified that Aileen was mentally unstable and had been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. 4 days later, Aileen was sentenced to death. On March 31st, 1992, Aileen pleaded no contest to the murders of Troy Burris, David Spears, and Charles Humphreys. She stated she wanted to get right with God. In her statement, Aileen said, quote, "I wanted to confess to you that Richard Mallory did violently rape me, as I've told you, but these others did not. They all began to start to." On May 15, 1992, Aileen was given 3 more death sentences. In June 1992, Aileen pleaded guilty to the murder of Charles Karksadan and received her 5th death sentence. In February 1993, Aileen again pled guilty to the murder of Walter Antonio and received another death penalty. No charges were brought against her for the murder of Peter Sims, since his body was never recovered. In all, Aileen received 6 death sentences. On October 9th, 2002, Aileen Wuornos died at 9:47 a.m. She had declined her last meal and opted for a cup of coffee. Her last words were, quote, "Yes, I would like to say I'm sailing with the rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th, like the movie. Big mothership and all. I'll be back, unquote. Aileen Wuornos was cremated and her ashes were spread beneath a tree in her native Michigan by a childhood friend, Dawn Botkins. So my thoughts on Aileen Wuornos. I've seen every documentary, read most of the articles and books, and from the beginning of my discovering her, I was really intrigued. Not only that she had been a female serial killer, but because of who she was. She was brought up in a horrible environment. She had to survive any way she could, and she wanted nothing more than to be loved and to feel safe. So I didn't cover too much of the acts of violence that she inflicted on her victims. She did give a testimony in trial that she was raped by her first victim, Richard Mallory. And what surprised me doing my research was that Richard Mallory was a convicted rapist. I do believe that Aileen was raped by Richard Mallory. The other victims, I don't know. I wasn't there. But I think what happened was Aileen Wuornos, with her troubled life, and in my opinion being once again raped by a man, she had had enough. All she wanted was to be loved. And with the abuse that she had in the past, I think it was a boiling point. After Richard Mallory raped her, I think she lost it. I think she had had enough of being treated like trash. Even though she was a prostitute, she was a human being, and no one deserves to be treated like trash. I'm not validating her actions whatsoever. All these men had families, they had lives, and they were victims. I do believe that they came in contact with the wrong person at the wrong time. Aileen Wuornos has always intrigued me. Out of all the killers that I've done research on, Aileen Wuornos, if she were alive today, I would pick her to be the one to sit down with and talk to. Not only does she intrigue me, but I would have loved to hear from her whole story. So that is Coffee and Crime. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give this a like. If you are not a miracle and want to be, click that subscribe button. Watch a miracle happen. I will talk to you guys tomorrow for another random video. I love you. Goodbye.